My name is Christian Halversen. I'm 27. I am from Danville, California. If you don't know where Danville is, it's about 40 minutes east of San Francisco. They call it the Bay Area a lot. So I'm from California. I've been living here in Provo, Utah for the last about 6 years or so. Just graduated from BYU in April. And I do motion graphics.
Cool. So Christian, how did you get into motion graphics? Kind of what was the point in your life where you saw it or you discovered it and then you decided to try it and you got hooked? Or tell us a little bit about the history of that.
Totally. So I, ever since I was a kid, I've loved media. So I love movies, I love television, I love video games. You know, I've always loved media. And so for most of my life, I really wanted to go into movies. And, you know, I had a film camera when I was, a video camera when I was 8 or 9 and just started filming things and was, making cheesy high school videos. And, I kind of had a little bit of roots of motion graphics in there because I made a video game parody movie in high school. And I don't know if you guys know what DDR is. It's called Dance Dance Revolution, but it's this dancing game. It's got these arrows that fly up on the screen, and I remember I animated a whole sequence with those arrows in Premiere using Adobe Premiere's title sequence, which it was kind of a long, dreary process, but I was just so excited because I loved animating. And it just felt cool. And so I remember staying up till like 4 a.m. animating stuff. But I didn't like motion graphics then. I didn't even know what it was. And so I was just like, I'm making a cool video game parody, And so I graduated high school. I went to BYU, Idaho for a year. And there wasn't really a good film program up there at the time. I went up there in about 2009. It was 2008, 2009, and there just wasn't a good film program, and so I worked really hard so I could transfer to Provo, and I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and we served missions for 2 years, and so it took 2 years off to go serve a mission trip in Texas, and then when I came back, I went to BYU Provo, back in about 2011. And so I just started trying to apply to the film program. And I didn't apply that very first semester. The second semester, though, I did apply, and I got rejected. And, I was like, okay, well, that's fine. You get 2 chances. And so I'll try applying again the next fall, the next winter. And so this is the beginning of 2012 that I got rejected the first time. So I went home for the summer, came back the following fall, and I was trying to take classes that would, kind of prove to the university, like, hey, look at me, I'm working hard, trying to, get into your program. And so I took a couple classes like Intro to Film. I took an Avid editing class, and then I took an After Effects class. And, I thought After Effects was pretty cool. The only thing I associate After Effects with was lightsabers, because that's what everyone associates After Effects with. There's not really, you don't think of anything else, right? I mean, nowadays maybe kids think of Harry Potter. Back then, though, and most of my childhood is like, oh, if you know After Effects, you do lightsabers. And so I even remember when I was in high school, I was like, I wanted to make a lightsaber film. And back then, rotoscoping was just this long, arduous process, and you had to have After Effects. And so I just, I kind of gave up on that dream after a while. So anyway, I took this After Effects class, and I took it from a professor named Lauren Roundy. He's a motion graphics artist as well. I don't know how many of you guys would know him, but he's in this area. And so I was taking those classes, and I thought I was pretty cool. Basic positioning, scaling, rotating, basic masking. It's really nothing as you know, we've all come to learn with motion graphics, it's like that's like the bare bones essentials. I thought I was super cool though, and Adam Forbes comes in one day. You all hopefully know Adam. He's one of the guys that helped to found this motion graphics group, and and Adam comes in and he shows the sizzle reel for motion graphics at BYU TV. And, they have a lot of good programming there. They have BYU Sports Nation. They have Studio C. They have advertising. They had television shows like Granite Flats. So they just had this, pretty cool reel. And I was, blown away because it's like I had no idea how to do any of that, but it looks super cool. And so Adam shows this reel, and then he's like, hey, if anyone's interested, we're hiring, and you can email me and we'll set up an interview. We're trying to find people that can do motion graphics. And, for me, I was like, oh, cool, film, animating job, at BYU TV, like that will even prove to the film program more that I'm, serious, and I didn't think I had a chance really because I was such a noob. I was so green. I applied anyway though, and I got an interview, and I went in and met with Adam. And for those of you that know Adam, he's cool. He's just so chill. He's so relaxed. He's also incredibly hard to read sometimes. And so, I go in, but I'm talking with him. I'm showing him stuff that I've done in this class. And again, this stuff is like I'd be embarrassed to show people this stuff these days because be like, oh man, I was showing Adam was like, it's so cool, and I know how to mask, and I know how to position things and animate them in and out, and I felt cool. And he was nodding and smiling because he's nice. And he's like, okay, well, I'll let you know. And I was like, okay. And so I waited a week. I was kind of in the middle between jobs at the time, and so I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I just needed a job because I was a college kid. I needed money, and so I was in the midst of applying for a custodial job, early morning custodial job. And so the week later, I was waiting for this job, and so a week later, I emailed Adam again. Just said, hey, kind of a friendly, how's have you decided yet? Just kind of waiting on another job, but this one would be the priority. I'd love to work with you guys. And he replied like a day later or something. He was like, oh, no, still trying to figure it out. I'll let you know. And so I said, okay. So I waited another week, and then he sent an email and said, hey, we've hired someone. Thank you for applying. If you have a portfolio at the end of the year, you can go ahead and send that to us again, and we can talk then. I was like, okay, great. I sent the email, and then I was like, okay, great. Well, I'm never going to get the job. It was a nice try though. So I took the early morning custodial job and continued my application process for the film program. And I finished the After Effects class. It was only like a block long, so it wasn't it was just half the semester, and then so I didn't really touch After Effects, for the rest of the year. So at the end of 2012, I applied for the film program, and you have to wait about 3 or 4 weeks to get a response. It was about 3 weeks. And they tell you pretty much at the end of the semester. And so, I remember before I got the letter, I got an email from Adam. And again, this was about 2 months after he had told me they'd filled the position. So I got an email from Adam, and he said, hey, would you still like to work here? I was like, oh yeah, I finished the After Effects class. I could show you what I have. I definitely would love to work there still. And Adam said, it's like, oh no, we'll just take you. We can build you up, train you up. And so I was super excited, super stoked. I dropped my custodial job like it was hot. And, a few days, it was interesting because just a couple of days later, I got the letter from the film program, and they had rejected me a second time. And I remember sitting on my bed, and I cried for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And then that was it, because I was like, hey, I have an animation job, I have a motion graphics job at BYU TV. So there's a little bit of a disconnect for me because it's like, okay, well, your television station wants me, your film program doesn't want me.
Right.
So it was a little bit of a non sequitur. It was okay though, it's like, okay, well, I'll just, make my own path. I'll just figure it out, and oftentimes when we go through hard times or get rejected and stuff, we kind of search out other people that have gone through the same problems. And, so at the time I found something. Spielberg had gotten rejected from USC twice, film school, and he's become this major multimillionaire, amazing film director, right? And so it's like, okay, you know what? I can make my own path. I can do this. And so beginning of 2013, I started working at BYU TV, and, I was level 1 motion graphics, and I really knew nothing. And that's when I was introduced to Andrew Kramer, one of my heroes for sure. A few months later, I got into Grayscale Gorilla with Nick Campbell and Chris Schmidt, and those guys are amazing, and they taught me so much. And of course, Adam, Adam's very good at what he does and taught me a lot. He's really helped me to learn so much about motion graphics. And so started working there at the beginning of 2013, and then about 8 months later, I was coming back from a family vacation, and I'm driving from Salt Lake back to Provo, and Adam calls me, and he says, "Hey, like, can you, what are you doing for this next school year?" And it's like, "Oh, I mean, I'm just, doing classes and whatever." And he's like, "Well, if you can, do you think you can drop it all and just like take off?" And I was like, "Well, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, one of your old coworkers, his name's Anthony Abbott, he's a really good friend of mine, one of my mentors. He had graduated and he had gone to a company in New York called Case Agency, and so he had gone to New York, and a few months later, fast forward, he calls Adam and says, 'Hey, we need an intern. What's Christian doing?' And so Adam calls me. He's like, 'Dude, if you can take this, you should, because I would have killed for something like this in college. It's just such an amazing opportunity, such a great exposure, being able to go out somewhere with like New York and just to, really soak it in.' And this was 2 weeks before school started, so I was a little overwhelmed. It's like, okay, well, let me figure out if I can do this logistically, because there's a lot of factors to it. After, it only took 3 days though to find a place to live, figure out the stuff with the internship. It was a paid internship, and so I think I made like $40 after everything was said and done with this internship. So I figured out stuff with internship. I was able to drop school for a semester without any consequences. They call it a leave of absence. And, I was able to sell my contract, and, again, all within 3 days. And so, wow. I took off, so I figured out 3 days, and then about a week and a half later, I was on a plane to New York, and, just, divine intervention. It was absolutely crazy how fast it all worked out. And so I went to New York and I worked with Case Agency for about 3.5 months. Luke Gibson worked over there. He's come to the meetup once, I think. He's a friend of mine. Another girl named Christine. She also worked with Case Agency. She's come to the meetup once or twice. It was just amazing, though. It was a paid internship, so I didn't go into debt, and it was a really amazing opportunity to feel like what it was like to work in a high stakes, high energy, fast moving, deadline driven, company, and it was a chance to work with Anthony again. He was just such a good friend of mine, and taught me even more about motion graphics and kind of boosted me even farther into the career, into this path. And it was so amazing, and their Case Agency was mostly a design fashion house. We worked with a lot of people like Johnson and Johnson. We worked with Clinique. We worked with Ammo New York. They worked with people like Pepsi. So they're pretty well established, and they do very well for themselves. And so I got to do a lot of motion graphics in that side of the industry. It was really cool. So that was about 3.5 months, and then I came back, and that was the end of 2013. And so beginning of 2014, I came back to Provo and just kind of jumped back into BYU TV, and that's what I've done for the last about 3 years. And I was doing school, I was doing BYU TV, and then in the midst of all that, I started doing freelance for different companies. I've done, I built my own computer at home. I'm a PC guy, so I built a computer just to do more freelance, and just have been able to work with a whole bunch of different companies, and both locally and internationally, and that brings a whole bunch of cool opportunities and experiences and opportunities to learn and kind of, further my motion graphic skills and stuff. And so I did that for about 3.5 years until I graduated. My major at BYU was, since I didn't get into film, I had kind of chosen psychology as a placeholder just because, I didn't know what to do. And so I was like, well, I'll just do psychology because it's cool. And it sounds, filmmakers, mess with your mind, right? So I can be I got to learn how to do that, I guess. And so I just arbitrarily picked psychology. And I got back from New York, and I was like, okay, well, this doesn't fit anymore. I want something that's going to make me a better animator, a better motion graphics artist. And so there's an open major for technology, engineering, education. And I wasn't planning on being a teacher. I definitely wanted to be in industry. And so I just jumped in this major because there was the design classes, and there was film classes, and there was a whole bunch of other practical classes, really good stuff. And so I just picked that, and so I was doing that, and then I was doing BYU TV and doing freelance, and so I did that for the last 3.5 years after New York, and I graduated this last April, and I got a job pretty much right out of college. Also in the midst of all this, I was, I was kind of freelancing, right? And so I'd met this guy, and we talked a bit, and he has a company called Studies Weekly, and I told him, what I was doing, and I was graduating soon, and so he got excited about that, and I had a position essentially right after I graduated. And so that's where I am now. So I work for this company called Studies Weekly. They do textbook replacement, and so for nationwide. And so basically what they do is, instead of a teacher, getting textbooks for their kids every year, they can order these publications from Studies Weekly. And these publications, the kids get a magazine every week, and the magazines cover state standards for every state. And so essentially these publications are able to prepare kids for, their state standards tests and for, school standards and everything. And so it's a textbook, alternative, and really pretty cool. So they're nationwide. They're pushing to international here pretty soon. And their video department was founded about 3 years ago. And so they have this guy named Loki Mulholland. He's an award-winning documentary creator and filmmaker, and so he's in charge of their video department. So for the last 3 years, they've been creating web-based video content to supplement all of the the publications that these kids are getting as well. So it's become this multifaceted educational system. So I got hired on to be the motion graphics specialist just about 2.5 months ago, and well, it was about 2 months ago, and So I'm doing motion graphics for education, which has been really cool. It's been a very safe and creatively powerful environment because I have freedom to, explore. I have freedom to, create and develop new ideas. It's also pushed me to become a better motion graphics artist because they have this like T-Rex character named Frank, and so I got to create this 3D dinosaur and texture it, rig it, light it, animate it, and put it into scenes. Composite it into scenes for these videos that are going to be viewed by children. So that's a new experience because I've never done character animation, and so it's been a really it's like, okay, well, it's a new skill, and it's pretty amazing. And so that's where I am now, which it's kind of funny because I was an education major. I wasn't planning to do education. I ended up in an education field anyway. I get to educate doing what I love to do, though. So
cool.
Anyway, that's kind of a little bit long-winded. That's kind of been my map, my charted history, because it's been pretty crazy, and the saying goes, all roads lead to Rome, right? And I would say, not all roads lead to motion graphics. And I would say that a lot of people's stories of how they ended up in motion graphics would be pretty similar to mine, just in the sense that, they weren't planning on it. No one knows what motion graphics is. They, often when I introduce the fact that, I say motion graphics, they're like, huh? And I say, I do 2D and 3D animation. And they're like, oh, great. Well, you're going to go work for Disney or DreamWorks, right? And it's like, sort of. I mean, not quite. But, so I just kind of reiterate the fact that, I think most of us end up here and we're not exactly sure how we did. When you look at the past, and it's just like kind of crazy, but cool at the same time. And I feel like a lot of us in this field will agree that we just love doing this kind of work because we get to put our hands, fingers in so many different pies and get to become, we're just so well-rounded when it comes to, we need to know design, we need to know composition, we need to know color, we need to know timing, we need to know so many different programs. And so I think the side of me that loves being a part of everything loves motion graphics, and so it's really been a pretty amazing journey so far. So
that's cool. Yeah, no, you've articulated it well, and it's a pretty cool story, like what you've been through. I'm curious of, like, if you had a type of work that you're really passionate about, what would it be? Maybe, like, for me, I love 2D animation. And I'm passionate about it. I just love how it moves. What would you say is your preferable passion or work with motion graphics?
Okay. Yeah. I first and foremost, I love storytelling. So I mean that'll lead into kind of how I'm going to explain the next part. I've always loved being a storyteller, and so with motion graphics, I get to do that. When you're doing the explainer video, it's fun, and you can, really explore the design and really kind of, the motion is really beautiful. It's when you get to kind of be more creative with those explainer videos, get to be a little more creative with the direction of those videos, that I really get excited, because it's like, okay, well, I want to tell the story. How am I going to tell this story? I'm going to do it with color. I'm going to do it with sound. I'm going to do it with, of course, the motion and how everything moves and how everything is, linked and laced together. And I love all that. And so that being said, I've really loved doing 3D. And, with motion graphics, it's really hard to be like, well, I just like 3D or I just like 2D, because oftentimes they all kind of get mashed up together and you're doing everything, So I love being able to do 3D and then to jump, into After Effects, using the example of Frank, this 3D dinosaur I created. All of him was made in 3D, so, texturing, rigging, lighting, animating, all of that it's all done in 3D. And so, but then I bring him into After Effects and then I get to, I composite this whole scene, right? And it's like this prehistoric scene, and I get to tell the story, right? And I put him in the scene, he's talking to people, and then I get to use, like, he's basically the type of the scene is he's sitting there, and it starts as an illustrated scene, and it's flat, right? Because a lot of the publications that they do for Studies Weeklies are illustrated magazines, right? And so we were introducing him this 3D version of him with this, flat publication, and it turns into this picture, and it's like a picture of this prehistoric scene, and Frank's kind of front and center, but he's illustrated. And so like for the kids, we do this scene where he like there's this comet that comes in from the background, like smashes into the ground and like shakes the whole scene, and Frank blinks and he comes into goes from 2D to 3D, and he's like, guys, did you feel that? And then another meteor comes down, and there's a volcano in the background too, and it starts smoking up, and Frank's not alone. There's another like long necked dinosaur in the background, and then there's a pterodactyl kind of hanging from the ceiling. And after the second shake happens, Frank's like, yeah, guys, like, what's going on? And and then the long neck turns out to be this cardboard cutout on stilts that falls down, and then the pterodactyl like breaks down from up above, and like he's attached to ropes, and the rope breaks, and he's like swinging, and Frank turns around and sees all that, and then the volcano erupts, and then there's all these other comets coming down. They're basically the apocalypse. And so Frank like runs off the screen, and then screaming, and then he comes back on, and he's like knocking over things, and he runs into the screen and falls over, kind of like a typical cartoon kind of animation or whatever. I really love doing that scene though, because it's storytelling, right? And it's storytelling through the medium of motion graphics, where it's like I get to use 3D, I get to use 2D, I get to use visual effects, plenty of particular, plenty of Andrew Kramer Saber, and I love that feeling of getting into a scene and just compositing the heck out of it, and getting the lighting right, getting the feeling right, and I think that's when I get really excited, is just taking all these elements and creating something pretty amazing. And so again,
it's
sorry,
incredible.
Kind of long-winded.
Oh no, it's good. I think
but
it's crazy how you're a kid, and you watch these cartoons or something, or you play video games. Now you come to an adult, you're 27, and your path leads you to making them. So I think it's kind of it's cool where you've ended up and what you're creating, and also your enthusiasm of how just excited you are for what you're doing. I think that will lead you super far. It's super important.
Yeah. It's so much fun.
What do you think? So what do you think your goals are? Where's the future for you? Where do you want to go?
It's a question I'm asking myself these days too. I just started Studies Weekly, and I'm really loving it there, and I'm doing freelance as well. And so I think I'll be, here for at least a year, maybe two. I think I don't know if it's the end. I don't think it's the end. As I've mentioned before, storytelling is something that really makes me come alive, really makes me that's when the fire really burns. It's like when I'm telling a story, when I can do that with motion graphics and just really love it, I just, time flies. I'm not even, the work day goes by like it's nothing, because I'm so into it. And so I want to end up somewhere where I can continue to do that. As far as, where it is, I'm not sure yet. I love BYU TV because I got to do visual effects and 3D and 2D. I loved working on things like Studio C. I loved working for Sports Nation, doing all of their 3D graphics and their interstitials. And, I loved, the 2D animation, the 2D advertisements we did. And, so BYU TV was amazing. So, if I could find something like that going forward, going into the future, I would love that. I think it'd be amazing to kind of be in and the other great thing about BYU TV was it was such an amazing creative environment. I was surrounded by other creatives that ended up being, some of my best friends. Spencer Evans, Jerem Newman, Kurt Merritt, Landon Graham, all friends that, Blake Meyer, all these people that have come to the motion graphics meetups before, but they ended up being, some of my best friends as well. And, so I go to work and, it was almost like, it was a group of friends, just hanging out because we're all creative types, right? And we're all working really hard and, learning together and creating together. And it was just such an amazing environment because I was working and I was with friends and we were creating together and we could get feedback from each other and we just grew and became even more than what we could be, even more than I could have been ever by myself. And Adam Forbes and Jason Knapp were our supervisors and all those guys, just pretty amazing, and there's plenty of other names I could list of people I worked with at BYU TV. The list would be too long though. It's just, I love that environment. And so for me, my goal, number one is storytelling. I want to end up somewhere where I can continue to be a creative and continue to be a storyteller. Number two would be somewhere to end up somewhere like BYU TV where, it's good work and there's good friends and there's just amazing creative potential where we're all working together and we're all growing together and we're all friends, and I think that I couldn't ask for a better job at BYU TV, this last 4.5 years, to prepare me for moving forward. And what it really has given me is this powerful perspective of where I need to be, where I need to end up, to really thrive and flourish in this field. And that's where I need to go. And so, wherever that is, wherever that creative, dynamic friendship is, that's where I need to go. So, looking for it, that's the next step is to find that. So I can't name a specific company. I can't name a specific state. I know it's out there though, and so it's where I need to be. And so what I'm doing right now is just making sure that I can continue to grow these skills to a point where I can just easily transition into that environment again and be a part of that team that can just succeed and do amazing things together. So
cool. No, it sounds like you're content where you are, but you're also driven to learn more and you're open to opportunities in the future.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, sorry to cut you. I just to add on that, I was just going to say, I think we had this amazing motion graphics meetup this last week actually, and there's this chart that they shared, and it was this kind of like wavelength between comfort and between danger zone, which danger zone's like late nights and no sleep and harsh deadlines, and the comfort zone's like a safe job where it's 8 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever, and you're consistent work. And then it's kind of this wavelength. And as motion graphics artists, it's I think if we want to progress, if we want to become better than what we are, we need to make sure we're pushing ourselves to get into situations where we're growing and we're being pushed and we're a little bit in that danger zone, maybe pulling an all-nighter, but pushing ourselves so that we can continue to grow. And so I'm in a spot right now where it's relatively safe, it's comfortable, it's good. I work 8 to 4 Monday through Friday. I'm learning and growing a lot, which is really good. I know I need to continue and become better though. And so I'm striving for that. So anyway, you can
does California ever, you're from California, does it ever pull you back? Do you ever want to go back, or you?
Absolutely.
It does.
Utah's been good. It's a very pretty place. There's, lots of outdoor adventures and it's very pretty. I've been here for a very long time though, and I'm in a college town still, and I need to get out. And so I love growing up in California. I love New York. The thing about working in a city, working in a place like New York or like somewhere in California, maybe Southern California, is there's just such a powerful and amazing energy. I was kind of talking about the teamwork and the energy I felt at BYU TV, working with all my friends, working in New York, working down like Southern California, like Hollywood, those kinds of areas. There's just kind of this buzz in the air. There's just kind of this feeling of energy. When I tell people about New York, I always say, well, there was always something to go and do. There's always something to go see. And it was energizing, And so I would definitely go back to New York. I would totally go back to California. Who knows? I love Texas too. I'd go work in Austin, two big companies over there, or San Antonio. I love the city. I love the energy. And so again, as I mentioned before, I'm trying. I don't know where I'm going to end up. I know how the situation I want to end up in. I just don't know where that is. And so,
right.
I do know that with cities and with those places like California and New York, it's just the energy is thriving, and I'm much more likely to find a dynamic and powerful and exciting work environment in those places. And so, who knows? Who knows where I'll end up? That's part of what I'm figuring out. So,
if you could, I'll just a question. Like, if you could give, like a piece of advice from somebody up and coming, somebody just starting out, what do you think that would be?
Learn to learn. That's something I'm still learning, is learning how to learn. I can't stress enough how vital it is to be willing to, grow and be willing to learn, and to be willing to learn how to learn, because you're going to be put in situations as a motion graphics artist where someone's going to say, we want a 3D animated rigged dinosaur
right.
for our videos. Can you do that? Like,
right.
I can figure it out. And, in the course of a few weeks, I learned how to rig in texture and light. Learn how to rig and animate in cinema, and, that's, if I didn't know my way around cinema, if I didn't, push to try and find, how to do it, learn how to do it, it's impossible. I would have been like, well, I don't know. I know how to do it in 2D, and that's what I can do, and so I'll do that. It's like,
right.
I don't want to say it's not good enough. I want to say, because it's not that it's not good enough. I think for yourself personally, when you're, you should never be content with yourself. You should never say to yourself, oh, this is good enough. Whatever. Even after doing all these projects, I've done hundreds of projects, after doing everything, there's that feeling when I finish a project and it's like, oh man, but I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. It could just be so much better, It's like, not that it's a bad product, it's just, it's like, if you're continually thinking like, man, I want it to be better. I think I could do this better, I could do this better. I think if you're in that mindset, if you're in a spot where it's like you do good work and you look at it and you've turned it in and it's gone, right? But you go back and look at it and you're like, oh, well, I could have done this and I could have done this. I think you're in the proper mindset of, it's like you always have room to grow, and never be content with just your best, because, you can always become better. I think making sure you don't put a limit on yourself is when you really start to polish yourself. And that's when things shine, and that's how you become even better. And so, sure. Long-winded, but once again, learn how to learn, because, you're going to be in situations where someone's going to ask you to do something. And if you say, well, I don't know the answer to that yet, just give me a little bit, I'll come back to it. I'll come back to you. And, you go out and you learn, you come back and you do it. And that's the joy of, being motion graphics is because you continue to learn your whole life.
Yeah. Well, Christian, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about your story and like answer those questions. I think like obviously you're super excited. You have a stellar reel, very talented, and
Thank you.
like probably awesome to work with. I've never had a chance to work with you, but it just seems like your energy is so positive. So thanks again, and I'm sure you're going to do so well in your career with motion graphics.
Well, thanks, man. I really enjoyed talking with you. It's fun to look back, but it's also exciting to look forward.